move on, Keith, and talk about Manchester City, because there's been a lack of noise around the ongoing lawsuit potentially. Is that a concern, Keith? And do you have any updates for us, please, on that ongoing lawsuit?
I wish I did have an update on that one. You're right, it's gone quiet, which to me would think there's a lot of behind the scenes conversations going on possibly. And that's what could be trying to be resolved right now, rather than having the mother of all battles in the public eye. In both people's interests here, between City and the Premier League, it'd be best to try and find some way through this. And I know there'll be pressure from outside sources, from governments and different things as well. It's a very complex situation right now. And I know it's gone quiet publicly, and we're all very thirsty for information. But that's what I'm guessing is going on right now, is some sort of jockeying behind the scenes. And certainly having governments involved in those sort of things, it's getting messy. And that's why I think it's gone quiet in the public eye, because the real heavyweights are trying to sort something out. Now, what sort of deal could be struck behind the scenes, I've no idea. But listen, some of the best brains in the football world and the legal world and the governmental world will all be working on this particular problem. And so, watch this space. But yes, it's gone deathly quiet right now.
Is the thought, Keith, it could potentially be announced this week? What the result of that lawsuit is? How long do we expect potentially this to sort of drag on for?
Oh, this could. I mean, look, there's the two things. I mean, there's the Man City sort of situation against the Premier League, as well as the Premier League 115 charges, as they become known, with appeals and all sorts of things. This could still drag on for another 2 seasons, maybe. I just don't know. That's why I think everybody's trying to focus on trying to find a way forward, and there's got to be some way that this can be got through, because, as I say, having this public battle that could drag on as long as I said it could, then people just don't want that, don't need that, and it affects the Premier League brand considerably overseas. And this is where Jim Radcliffe has got to think about his points about the top 6 having more say. Well, here's one of the top 6 potentially damaging the whole Premier League more than anything else. And so the top 6, if they want that responsibility, they've got to behave responsibly, not go off gallivanting about, European Super Leagues and different things. They've got to learn their position. If they want to be leaders, they've got to show responsibility and be leaders. But right now, they're completely vacant and absent from any leadership position.
An online hacker, Keith, called Rui Pinto has actually threatened, talking of their charges or alleged charges coming in November, he's threatened to release documents and emails proving that Man City did in fact breach FFP over those number of years. What are your thoughts on that? And could that have any bearing potentially in the case that is to come?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, I think he was the source of a lot of the information around the initial charges. And it's difficult to look. I'm not a barrister, obviously, and I understand there are certain issues around evidence like this coming from sources like this, that whether it's admissible or not. I believe there are ways it can be admissible, and I believe there are ways it would be challenged. So it's going to be dancing on the head of a pin from a legal point of view. His sources seem to be very reliable. Now, how he's got it, I don't know. Obviously, it was him, I think, that started this whole ball rolling. And it does seem to be that the leaks seem to be very genuine, but it's how it's admitted in a legal format that will be the key issue here. Now, it's a very strange one, but I do tend to believe that the material is accurate and is honest, and it says what it says. That's only my view, but it does stir up a hornet's nest with this. And the belief was that he just put some new stuff out there. Why that wasn't released earlier, right at the start, I don't know. And of course, it begs the question: what else does he have on what other clubs as well? He's obviously managed somehow to get into, either illegally or legally, I don't know how he's done it, either through sources or through illegal hacking. He's managed to get this sort of information. And so many other clubs might be a bit worried about what could be coming out there. Mr. Pinto has certainly put the cat among the pigeons. And again, a lot will depend on the legal stance on how that information comes into the public domain.
We'll look at the immediate, Keith, as well, because we know there's some ongoing interest actually from Saudi Arabia, as we've discussed before, but now it looks like it's sort of intensified potentially for both Kevin De Bruyne and João Cancelo. What would the valuation of those two be? And do you think that, say, João Cancelo is more likely to move given his sort of falling out potentially with Pep Guardiola?
Well, I think both are likely to move. I really do. The valuations, I don't have the information at hand, the length of their contracts left and where they both sit. Look, Saudi will pay for top dollar for both those because they are still in reasonable, physical shape. They're still, obviously still playing in the Euros, etc. And I think they're big names that Saudi would like. Where I think they may be used, and this is yet to be announced, but I believe that while the PIF bought the first 4 clubs, 75% of the first 4 clubs in Saudi, I think there'll be another 4 clubs coming under PIF umbrella very soon. And these are the sort of quality of players that would help become marquee signings for those next 4 clubs. So my theory is that they may be being stored up for those next 4 clubs when that's announced. And that's the sort of thing that you would see a spread of talent, and they're trying to strengthen the league overall rather than having it focused as we see at most leagues with a couple of clubs at the top, or 3 or 4 in the Premier League's case. So that's where I think the valuation and maybe at the high level for Saudi because of that sort of situation. So that could be an interesting way to look at it.
We know, Keith, there are quite a few clubs interested also in Jarrad Branthwaite. One of those actually mentioned now is Manchester City. Would that be a good move for him, do you feel? Is that more preferable, say, over another Premier League rival? And what valuation, what number could City come in at that then Everton would accept?
Well, I think even months ago when we discussed this, I'd said Branthwaite was up towards 100 million. And that's what I still believe he is. I think he's the best young defender of a generation. And he's a generational talent, and those don't come cheaply. I think he would do very well at Man City. I think he'd respond very well to Guardiola. And I think Guardiola can see that he is a genuinely talented, gifted, not only an athlete, but mentally, his attitude, his personal life, everything about him just smacks quality. Of course, we'd be sad to see him go, but I think Evertonians have accepted that. Where they wouldn't accept it was the ridiculous £35 million offer from Man United. But when you get to anything north of 75, I think there'd be a grudging acceptance that if he was to go, at least we got the right value for him. And I think City would be a great home for him as a player. I hope he doesn't go. Of course I do. But I think it's, potentially, if it was something like 75 million plus add-ons to get to 100, I think that's a deal that could be accepted.